Before we get into talking about the restoration of the windows and shutters, let's talk about this. Lots of people have asked, why are some of the windows blocked up? That's because of something called the window tax. What is the window tax? Well, in 1669, people were widely opposed to the idea of an income tax. So King William III introduced a window tax instead, because it was thought that the number of windows you had correlated to your wealth and your income. So it was a sneaky way of basically having an income tax. It was deeply unpopular, and lots of people in protest simply blocked their windows up. If you had between 10 and 20 windows, that put you into a higher tax bracket, and then you would pay more based on the number of windows you had. So people simply removed them, blocked them up in order to pay less money. This included landlords of tenement buildings. So as you can imagine, with the massive reduction in light and ventilation, it was thought that it was making people sicker, leading to more outbreaks of things like typhoid and measles. So it was very unpopular, and eventually in 1851 they abolished it. And it's a wide misconception that the window tax is what leads to the phrase widely used today, daylight robbery. One of the major jobs we have to do here is restoring these nearly 200-year-old Georgian shutters. So we have 8 sets of these shutters comprising of 56 panels in total. Let me show you how they work. So let me show you with this one. This is one of the better ones that actually still opens. Sadly, many of these are completely stuck, or even in some cases nailed shut. So take this little knob, twist it towards the window. That releases the mechanism, and then you pull. That's that one. Same with the other one. This one's slightly more stiff. So you can see even the better ones like this still require a lot of TLC and some planing, probably some sanding, all new hardware. I think I was meant to do that one first. So we're going very dark all of a sudden. I hope you can still just about see this. And then we have, this comes across here, slots into there to hold it shut. And then to release them, press this little button, pull that up, pop him back down. And that is how they work. So we're hoping to do most of the work ourselves. So our job for today, if we can, because some of them are quite stubborn to remove all of the old hardware, take them off of the window. We're going to have to meticulously label each panel so that we can figure out how to get them back together again. And then we are going to send them to a special company who will dip them in a sort of caustic solution that will completely strip the layers and layers of old paint off. And then they pressure wash them to remove all that old paint. And they should come up, in theory, like almost like new, bare wood. I think these are the original shutters. I believe they're oak, and they're going to look so nice when they're done. And from there we can prime and undercoat them, plane them where they need it, sand them where they need it, add new hardware, and in theory, put them back together. So I've estimated it's going to be about £100 per window to do these shutters. But when you think how much a joiner or a carpenter would charge to completely remake these from scratch, you just can't compare. I think I'm pulling this number completely out of the air. I think it would be about at least £1,000 per window to have somebody make all of these bespoke from scratch. This will also eliminate the need for curtains in these rooms. When you think about the cost of fully lined, made-to-measure curtains per window, £100, you can't compare. So today, take the old hardware off, unstick the ones that are stuck where we can, and then ready them to go off to the paint strippers. We have 2 sets of shutters out now. Charlie's having to use the Dremel to cut new grooves into most of the screws because they've all been painted over. They haven't been the easiest to remove. Panelling behind them, so lovely though. And most of them have got rather a lot of damp and mould and mildew behind them as well. So I'm quite excited to clean that off. I'll show you the other window. It's this big landing window. So all the panelling has been removed from there. These are all the screws, some of which are very rusty and disintegrated. So we will replace all the hardware and screws. Right, back to work, back to work, back to work. So although we would have liked to have replaced all of the shutter hardware, I've discovered that you either can't buy them in those sizes anymore, or some of the hardware you can buy, like the knob latch mechanism, but it's just simply too expensive. Nearly £200 for one of those. So new plan, we are going to replace all the screws and hinges. They're the worst affected by rust. They're the most dilapidated. And then the rest of the hardware, we are going to try and strip ourselves with paint stripper and give them a really good clean and see if we can restore them enough to use the existing ones. And it should, in theory, make it easier to put them back on. So I have 7 bags, all labelled, ready to put their respective hardware in when we take them off, and then we will strip them of all their paint, hopefully give them a really good clean, and then hopefully reuse those.
In this upstairs bedroom, we're currently working on the shutters. So we may have mentioned already that we are planning to take all the shutters off the windows, and we're going to get them stripped of all their paint so that we can restore them and hopefully repaint them and get them into a much better condition. So the first thing after taking off the windows that we have to do is to get all the hardware off the shutters. So each shutter has a whole series of hinges attached, which have just been painted over repeatedly over the years. So we've got to get all of these hinges unscrewed and removed from the windows. There's a window over here, a shutter over here, which is currently in progress. So you can see this state of this hinge where we've taken the screws out. We probably won't be able to reuse these hinges. We'll have a look at it, but it'll almost certainly be better to buy new hinges to replace these. So we're taking all of those off. One particularly interesting thing that we found when we were doing that were these screws. So the screws holding the hinges on seem to be handmade screws. So they're a bit different from modern screws. They don't have pointed tips on them. They've just got sort of flat ends. And I don't know if you can see it very clearly on this one, but each of the slots in the top have been hand cut. So some of them are sort of straight down the middle of the screw, and some of them, the slots are really off to the side and not very straight, where they've all been individually handmade. So that's good. I'll just show you some shutters that we've just about finished taking apart. So over here, we've got a big pile of the shutters that we've done so far, and we're just putting all the screws and hinges into little plastic bags to keep them safe with the shutters that they came from. This is worth showing. So this is a catch mechanism, and this we definitely hope to reuse. I just thought that was a really interesting old piece of technology. And one more small thing that I'd quite like to show you. When we were taking the shutters off, we noticed this section at the side of the window. And this is actually a removable section of wood. And behind there, we found the counterweight for the original wooden sash windows. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's I guess a lead weight in there hanging from some string, which would have been part of the original sash window mechanism. So that's it. We've got quite a few more of these shutters to go, a couple more to take off the windows, but mostly just removing all the screws, removing all the hinges, and getting them ready to be stripped. Luckily, I've got quite a lot of help today. My mum's here removing screws. It's not the nicest of jobs at all, so thank you very much. We've been working on these shutters all day, and this is the first batch all done. This is about half of the shutters from the whole house now. All of the hinges have been removed, all of the other metal hardware has been removed, so these are now all ready to be stripped.
So we have woods that run along the entire back of the property. So I think I've been in these woods about once, so let's have a look at them properly today. This is the first side. And we can't actually get in at the moment because there's so many stinging nettles. So one of our jobs that we really need to do is get in there and start strimming some pathways so that we can actually see where we're at, because the boundary is all the way at the back there where the stinging nettles end and the field begins. And then there's a drainage ditch, or some people would call it a ha-ha, that runs the entire length of the property. So we'll go and see that properly now in the part of the woods where we can get in. It's quite quiet at the moment, but I apologise if there's any noise. We did have an aeroplane a moment ago doing somersaults above this garden and making a hell of a noise, and then a noisy car. So heading to the other side now. Another job we'll have to do at some point is pruning some of the trees, cutting them back so that we get a nicer view of that kind of vista through there across the field. So I'm going to take you into the part of the woods that we can actually access at the moment. So we're in the woods now. This is this drainage ditch I was talking about. I can go down in there. I'll probably look very thoroughly ungainly while I scramble down here. So I'm in the ditch now, and it runs all the way that way, spans the entire length of the property, and it's completely overgrown. You can kind of see a pathway through there. And this is where we get lots of deer. So we have a couple of deer, a mama and a baby deer that come from the field over there, and they come into this ditch here and then up into our garden where they like to eat our apple tree leaves. So yeah, it's quite nice. So I'll try and get back out now. It's not the easiest, it's quite steep. And then we go back through this little clearing. And we found this little mushroom sculpture in the woods, which is quite cute. So we'll keep that. And then we come back out into the sunshine, back into the main garden.